everybody. How you doing? This is Greg Lake with the Theo Connect podcast. I'm here today with an extremely special episode to talk about silomethoxin. I'm not going to go into right now what it is or any of the specifics. We're going to cover it sufficiently here. I just want to introduce everybody. We got my brother Ben here. Ian Ben Weiss, everybody knows, my law partner. Ryan Bejan. Is it Bejan or Began, Ryan?
Vegan.
Vegan. Okay, my apologies.
Yeah. No worries.
And his girlfriend Kayla. They're in Maine.
Yeah.
We have Ian and Ben in Austin, and here I am in Florida. So we're kind of spread all over, but we come to speak of a common tale, and that is silomethoxin. So I'm just going to start it out. Ian, I guess, is kind of the most knowledgeable on this issue, but we're gonna, I'm going to direct this at Ian. What is silomethoxin? Where did it come from? How is it made? Any other details you want to fill in? Please do so.
Sure. So what we know about it is that it was synthesized in 1965 by the Pasteur Institute, and they synthesized it in the 10-step process from orthovanillin, which is vanilla from orchids, Mexican orchids. And that was it. And Joachim Gartz, an East German mushroom researcher, had some patents back in the 80s on feeding different tryptamines to the substrate of mushrooms, and then they would produce different substances. So Dr. Shulgin, Alexander Sasha Shulgin, was asked about psilomethoxin, and he said that if you fed 5-MeO-DMT to cow patties that were, inoculated with mushrooms, that the fruiting bodies would make psilomethoxin. And in this whole, medicine circle of working with 5-MeO-DMT, I thought, if you could have some kind of oral 5-MeO-DMT, that would provide a real therapeutic benefit compared to just, doing 5-MeO as we know from the toad or synthetic and a pipe, which is kind of, super useful, but a big roller coaster as far as the curve. And so I had a friend who grows mushrooms in Mexico, and where 5-MeO, amongst other countries, is legal. And then we went all down to Mexico and took the psilomethoxin mushrooms there. But basically, the mushroom 4-hydroxylates the 5-MeO-DMT, making psilomethoxin, leveraging the tail of the psilocin that keeps it orally active, and then making the 5-MeO-DMT part active, and then you have orally active 5-MeO. And that's probably enough of the science for the story. But the bottom line is that I got it from my friend. I took a tiny little piece, less than 1/10 of a gram, and then I think the next day I took like 1/3 of a gram of the mushroom fruiting body, and then the next day I took like a 1/2 a gram, and then at that point we all started the dieta together. Then we all started at that level and just kept on doing it together for like 5 days. So once I just did the initial test to make sure that it was both what we expected, the kind of, let's just say, dosage levels, and there weren't any other effects in it of like psilocin or psilocybin or some other effect besides the 5-MeO.
So real quick, so there is a kind of a marked difference between vaporizing 5-MeO or bufo and then this silomethoxin.
Yeah, definitely. One is the curve is very steep, like a roller coaster ride at Six Flags, right? We all know that anyone who's vaporized 5-MeO-DMT, the curve can be, its bigger amounts, very intense. And just like the difference between vaporized cannabis as compared to edible cannabis, vaporized 5-MeO compared to psilomethoxin, which is kind of like an oral version of it. Yeah, the curve is very much smoother, and you don't have those strong effects. And it really, takes the word we've never liked, takes the hallucinogenic out of the psychedelic.
Okay, incredible. And so the stage is set here. There was a trip to Mexico where everyone who's on our podcast now was able to perform a dieta together, I guess is what you described in Mexico during this time. So let's go around and get some feedback, and I also understand too that there has been some other veterans and people that you've worked with in Mexico with this sacrament beyond just who's here. All right. Well, I guess let's just start out. We'll start with Ryan and Kayla. Let's just hear your experience, and and then also any anecdotal reports of other people that you're aware of would be. We're all ears.
Okay, so I remember going down, and my girlfriend and I were planning on doing ayahuasca in Mexico, but that was supposed to be part of the daisha, but we ended up doing Psilomethoxin instead. So we were kind of like our bodies were super clean, our palates are clean, our vibration was very high. So at first I just remember Ian just offering the sacrament, and I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it out. And we went into a grocery store, like probably, I don't know, an hour into it. We were on our way to our Airbnb, and I just remember I just felt like I was floating. It felt like I was just so connected with my environment, and I was so just a part of everything around me. And it unlike like LSD or psilocybin mushrooms, like it didn't have that like I need to escape feeling. Like sometimes when you overdo psilocybin or you overdo LSD, you kind of get that I need to run away, go be by myself. This had the opposite effect. Was a total unifying me with my environment, and not only was it unifying me, it also made me want to improve my environment. So, be nicer to people around me. Just like if there's a piece of trash on the floor or on the ground, like I was just more apt to like, hey, I want to clean this place up, So for me, it relaxed me. And, just being able to use the sacrament, it really, it took the edge off any, like a lot of the anxiety that I get, and without interfering with any of my data sensory. So I could still eat, I could still sleep. I was conscious. I wasn't seeing things or hearing things that weren't there. I was actually very, very clear what was going on and very in tune with my environment. So, that was kind of my experience. And just from all the anecdotal evidence of seeing people, taking the sacrament, seeing just different people who have been on SSRIs for, 25 years, seeing them take the sacrament, and a half hour later, just looking at me with the biggest smile I've ever seen, and just being like, wow, I haven't felt like this in, 25 years since I've been taking these. So
Incredible.
just to get these and I've seen older ladies who've never taken psychedelics, and I've been see them taken, and they like are right in love with it. They love the feeling of it. There's not that disconnection. Like I said, with LSD or psilocybin, there's a commitment. Like you have to commit. Like, and if you take a little bit too much, then you're into it for a bigger commitment. Then you might not be able to eat or sleep or drive or do, the things that you need to do to stay in tune with your reality. So, I mean, and I just want to say, since the year or a little over a year that the sacrament's been around, I have not received one bad trip or bad response back from anyone. And I've received bad responses from cannabis, because cannabis can cause people to feel funny. But with a silomethoxin, because of the way it flattens the curve, it's comforting for everyone, for naive psychedelic users, and for people that have been doing psychedelics their whole life. So
we never had any bad.
And what's so, Ryan, I mean, what you described was basically a very functional thing where you were able to actually move around and do your daily task, without being, like you say, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it puts you right in the conscious, right in the present. and allows you to be focused on whatever task is at hand, whatever mission is at hand. So.
Wow. Incredible. Kayla, how was your experience?
Well, going to Mexico was I was very nerve-ridden for sure.
Yeah.
It would be the first time that I was going to be doing ayahuasca, but we didn't end up doing it. So I just started taking the sacrament with everyone else. And like he said, into the grocery store, that's when I really started feeling it. And I stepped into a world where I didn't have anxiety anymore. I didn't feel that. I was calm. I was focused. I don't know. It was amazing.
Incredible. In Ryan, but aren't both or one or both of y'all veterans?
Okay. I'm a veteran.
Okay.
Yep, I'm a Purple Heart veteran. Yes, wounded in Iraq.
Okay. Yep. Incredible. Well, yeah. Well, it sounds amazing. Thanks for sharing y'all's experience, man. I'm completely intrigued just because of kind of how this fits into the grand scheme of what we know about our existing psychedelic paradigm. This seems to possibly be shifting or changing the paradigm for what we know about the effects of psychedelics potentially. Ben and Ian, go ahead and let us know, Ben, if you want to speak first, like how your experience and what you've heard from others you've shared with.
Oh, totally. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I still remember the first time I came over, and we went out to this place that was like full of people. And normally, like when there's a lot of people around, I have anxiety or stress, and I'm sort of counting people and like assigning them point values and like wondering where people are. That sort of vanished. It was more like a fluid relationship with the environment, less friction, less stress. As Kayla said too, it's very similar to that. You know, one of the biggest things I noticed, more than the mental health thing is super important, but a lot of our mental health is stored in our bodies. You know, like if you ever read the book, you know, The Body Keeps Score. A lot of these experiences, these emotional experiences, are stored in our body, and some of the traumas that we have in our physical experiences. And so, you know, sharing this with other veterans, there's a veteran that I'm working with that's full of shrapnel down his right side, and it's like pressing against a bunch of nerves in his spine. And he couldn't ride a bike. He hasn't ridden a bike in 20 years. And he's like, called me. He's like, "Hey man, I rode a bike for the first time in 20 years, and I rode for 25 miles." And to me, like my mind was blown. So you know that fully vested me into this process. And I know, you know, from the whole range of applicability here, from helping people deal with their SSRIs and getting off pharmaceuticals, to helping people that have massive physical issues, and then, you know, to train professional athletes. So I feel professional athletes are using this
Wow.
as part of their So it really is like the whole optimization of the whole system, you know, the whole human system. So that the most intrigues me about this and the possible future applications of this. You know, we talk about like raising 1% of vibrations, like this is really doing that. Really doing that. It changes people's intention and how they live their life. You know, as Ryan said, it's like it allows you to see forward instead of like carrying all these things behind you.
Yep. And the important thing too is that you can still go live your life while working with this sacrament, according to what y'all are telling me.
Yeah, it's not hallucinogen. There's no visual or audio, audio data. So it really is whatever you do that you enjoy doing. It will help you make yourself better at doing that thing.
Wow. So appreciate that, Ben, for sure. Ian, you want to relay any more information, like on your personal experience, what you feel are the significant effects of this?
Sure. Like everyone's saying, because there's no visual or auditory, like sensory component to it. You know, if you take too many mushrooms, I shouldn't say it that way. If you take enough mushrooms where it starts to engage your sensory data and something turns into a snake, there's part of your ego that needs to pay attention to the fact that that thing might be a snake, because you for thousands of years, right? Your human biology is like, watch out, that's a snake. So that's going to potentially turn on your ego. Whereas this, because it's not generating any sensory data like that, you feel the energy, but it doesn't change any of your visual or auditory stuff. So you can just feel more relaxed. And, but with any other kind of microdosing, the minute it comes from, let's say, subperceptual into perceptual, it might make it hard to, I don't know, figure out which bathroom you're supposed to use or give a PowerPoint or whatever. But this isn't the case at all. So I just was amazed to find that you could stack this well. In other words, you could take more of it, and because the curve is so smooth, you didn't double the effect. You just really dovetailed and smoothed from different doses. And I was amazed how the effects of the medicine lasted beyond just, let's say, the time it's actively, going on in your body, and that you could take it any time of day. Really didn't cause any stimulation, or if you were taking even an LSD microdose too late in the day, it could just keep you up. You're not seeing it because your just mind's like, cool, we got this energy, we're gonna go solve some kind of, I don't know, problems or something. With this is you're taking down the RPM of your default mode network by a couple hundred RPM, and then you can use that energy to do something better with. It's better for the relaxation of your nervous system. So
incredible.
Greg,
go ahead, Ron.
One thing that I want to add to Ian's part is you don't have, like, to do ayahuasca or to do some of these plant medicines, you need to be on a certain dieta. And from my experiences, you can give people this medicine without them going on a drastic dieta or anything else. Well,
it also plays nice with SSRIs to get people to getting to that point, right? So it really is filling all the gaps. It really is.
It's really nuts, right? We were all there. Like, we've sat there and talked to someone who's on SSRIs for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and we've given them the spiritual supplement, the Psilomethoxin, and 20 minutes later, half an hour later, these people, the look on their face, and then the words go along with, called, "This is the best that I've felt since I've been taking these SSRIs." And that's happened many, many times. So.
And still have all their faculties about them and everything. Just literally out there living, being happy for the first time.
Well, I think that's what people are potentially wanting, right? This generalized anxiety disorder, that they're getting these things prescribed for. And this gives them that reduction in the anxiety, but it's not because it's crunching down all the serotonin at all. It's just taking away some of that anxiety energy that's focused on anxiety, and then freeing it up for the rest of the system.
It's incredible. Why do you, or any of y'all, what's your opinion? Why do you think that that the pharmaceutical companies haven't started to research this yet, or anything that we're aware of? I mean, do you think it's that obscure in the medical literature potentially?
I'll go first and say, IP background, focus on patents, is because they don't see the money pathway in commercializing it. Whereas they can make a psilocybin analog that's some BS version of psilocybin that in the body still oxidizes to psilocin, but they can get a patent on it. And then there's other things too, but I think they don't have a way in their model to invest in something like this, because they don't see a way to get money on it. So.
Incredible. And just to clarify, just because I've spoke with some people about this, some people still get a little mixed up on kind of the process, but just to make sure that, like, it's in the fruiting body, right? Like the 5-MeO is introduced to the mushroom substrate in vitro, and then it comes into the fruiting body. Okay. Yeah. Incredible. So you literally
if you feed it the right if you feed it the right amount of 5-MeO, because the mycelium of the mushroom doesn't have psilocin or psilocybin in it. If you feed it enough of the 5-MeO's food, it only makes silomethoxin and doesn't make any psilocin or psilocybin. So,
Wow.
And 4-hydroxylates only as much as it would have produced in psilocin or psilocybin before. So there's no risk of overfeeding and getting too much 5-MeO
Okay.
as popular with the serotonin syndrome risks or anything, because all the rest that's going to destroy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it basically funnels it, and once it reaches capacity, it just shuts down uptaking any more 5-MeO.
Yeah. So the mushroom eats tryptophan, right? The one of the 20 essential amino acids. Then tryptophan becomes melatonin, which is N-acetyl 5-methoxytryptamine or mexamine, and then that makes that into 5-MeO-DMT. And then it takes the 5-MeO off to use the DMT to make it into psilocin. But since it already recognizes the 5-MeO, it just says, I don't need to do anything to it. I can use it as is. And as Ben said, 4-hydroxylates it. It likes to 4-hydroxylate everything it can.
Yeah.
Then it recognizes it food or in that same tryptamine pathway.
And so this is interesting because, if we think 5-MeO, this tryptamine will be uptaken by the mushrooms. I mean, potentially there are other applications here with other tryptamines.
Yes. And Joachim Garz, who had the patents, which have already expired, he had fed, instead of DMT, which we know would make more psilocin, he fed it DET and DPT, and then it made the 4-hydroxylated versions of those. And so, this is really the future of medicine and developing new therapeutic compounds. It's not supercomputers running AI to come up with some BS psilocybin prodrug that they get a patent on.
Molecules for us, for our human form. We're natural human part of nature, and these mushrooms, they're not going to produce things that don't jive with our systems.
Exactly. They either break it down and say no other tryptamine-based consciousness can use this, so we got to break it down, or they're like, oh, these are all good tryptamines, and we can work with them, and we still don't know what the benefit to the mushroom is for making it, right? Of making psilocybin and psilocin, but it's willing to make psilomethoxin as well. It doesn't have to be told to. It doesn't have to be, forced to. It's not like, I'm just saying nothing wrong with cannabis, right? But we oversex the plant without pollinating it to get it the thing we want. This, you just feed it. It says, oh, I recognize that food, and it makes it. So
incredible. And just to kind of end up, I guess it's all of your belief that there would be a lot of applications here, particularly for veterans.
Absolutely. Like
100%.
So from a microdose standpoint, like what you're trying to do is you're trying to process and integrate that information in the same time. Like when you do a lot of psychedelics, there's a lot of processing.
Yep.
Then you have to do a lot of integrating. And then when you're using like psilocybin or LSD, there's a fine line that you have to hit, or you're processing too much, or you're not processing enough. With this silomethoxin in this microdose, in this capsule, it is the perfect amount to process and integrate. So what you're looking for in a microdose, this is delivering. You're getting that optimal processing and integration at the same time. So there's no need for like this big, deep integration. So you're just automatically in the zone with it. And for veterans, like that's what they need. We're being overwhelmed with data. We come back and with all this like trauma and stuff. So we're always constantly gathering data, and like we don't have the ability to process that data because we're not in a war zone anymore. So that data is useless to us. So with this silomethoxin, if we're able to now I can process this data, and the data tells me that I'm not in a war zone. I'm in a friendly zone. Okay. All this, I can perceive all this data differently, and it's not sticking in me, causing me more anxiety, more just want to run away. Now I can be in my environment processing the data while I'm integrating. So I'm like, okay, that might be dangerous, but it's not a danger to me.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. And as we all know, with the problem of rising veteran suicides, I mean, it's more important now than ever to get the word out and to get these people the help that they need. Yeah. Well, yeah. I was going to close it up, but I want to open it up for obviously anyone here to make any closing remarks that they feel pertinent to the conversation. And feel free. All right. Well, actually, I take it back. I got one last topic real quick. Legal status in the U.S., Ian, and so me and you know this.
Sure.
This isn't specifically scheduled, right?
No, not at all. It doesn't even have exactly any kind of drug reference number or control number. It's this crazy Controlled Substances Act, which we know doesn't work, and these 5 tryptamines they're trying to schedule that they came after were part of that. But ultimately, silomethoxin is not scheduled, and the government's known about it. And for reference, we first synthesized DMT in 1936. We put it on the precursor to the Controlled Substances Act before Nixon's version of it in 1964, and we discovered it in the human body in 1965. So same year they synthesized silomethoxin. So yeah, the government's known about it forever, and they put 5-MeO-DMT on the schedule in 2011, and they were going to put 5-MeO-MIPT on the schedule in this most recent lawsuit, which Ralph Metzner said is the closest substance that he was aware of to 5-MeO-DMT as far as its effects.
Wow.
Yes, and they backed off doing so. So, as we all know, silomethoxin takes the roller coaster where you can't integrate because it's happening with such intensity, where you got to sit down for a while, figure out afterwards, and just smooths that curve out. It's like that old-fashioned roller coaster ride that you go to, and when it's smoothed out, you can. It takes the hallucinogenic, out of the psychedelic. You don't, without the visual disturbance. So the bottom line is all the tests that the government uses, which are all a joke on how they make something, under the Analog Act, really still don't even apply to this because it's not a depressant or it's not a stimulant and it's not a hallucinogenic that's has any of those effects. So it can't be compared to anything else that's out there.
And just to reiterate, based upon y'all's stories, I guess the based upon your personal experience and the anecdotal evidence, there's really no safety concern or issue that can be foreseen or expected at this point. It's all come out good.
Correct. Yeah, we everyone knows that 5-MeO DMT in the body in that form can have concerns around high amounts of that leading to potentially serotonin syndrome. But when it's made into silomethoxin, you don't have that issue anymore. Just like you can have those same concerns with DMT, right? Like in, mixing it with MAOIs, but as mushrooms, when you put into 4-hydroxyl DMT, the psilocin that's in mushrooms, you don't have to worry about the serotonin syndrome anymore, making it one of the safest medicines on the planet. So same thing with silomethoxin. Just it takes the wild toad and tames it in a super smooth curve on the toadstool.
Well, hopefully we can continue to gather evidence and anecdotal reports and stuff and keep crunching some data and work these up a little further. Because, I mean, it sounds to me like something very promising and from the sounds of it, probably pretty safe, very safe. So it'd be interesting to see how that shakes out.
And I want to add something on the veterans. It's like we've heard of the numbers 22 a day. We all believe those numbers are much higher because they're not counting, things like overdoses and suicides. But if you take their numbers and we say 7,000 a year, only 250 people have been helped by all the Schedule 1 psychedelic studies in the United States that have been conducted so far with psilocybin and MDMA. And only another 250 more are going to get help with all these new studies. So we've got 7,000 veterans a year that are killing themselves. And none of the currents, waiting for them to tell us that psilocybin is safe and effective, which we already know in 2025, isn't going to help any of those 7,000, that's 20,000 veterans between now and then. So, we're really excited about how silomethoxin can really help the veteran community right now.
right now, today. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, yeah, man, it was a pleasure having y'all on. We'll come back. You know what I mean? We'll come back, 6 months, maybe 3-6 months, and let's just see what the conversation still is. I'm excited to kind of keep track of this as it moves forward, because a new discovery not done by a pharmaceutical company is always a very exciting thing for me, and something I can definitely rally behind, you know?
Yeah, man, just hiding in plain sight. This is the thing. Hiding in plain sight. We're bringing back personal, affordable healthcare. We're bringing back being able to, give yourself your own healthcare for, you know, dollars a day versus, I don't know, thousands of dollars a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. Well, again, I appreciate it, y'all, and we will rendezvous again here soon. Thank y'all.